Good morning everyone, today is the 18th episode of Arks Trash. For those who don't know what Arks Trash is, it is a podcast which is audio only. I have added in some B-roll so that if you guys want to watch something, at least there's something visual for you to watch while you're listening to the podcast. However, for the best experience, I do recommend most people to just leave it running in the background while you're grinding for your seasonal points or doing something in PSO2. Something I want to point out is I have achieved 9,999 for this week as well, and something very important is your points carry over from the previous week. As you can see here, your points, it says there's 100,000 points. So this is because I had points left over from last week, which carried over to this week. So if you don't want to spend your 99,000 points this week because you're waiting for next week's shop to add the new items, then you can save your points. So that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be saving my 100,000 points over here until next week. Another thing I want to point out is the web link event for week 2. We are doing really well. We are smashing it. It was 30 million. We literally got this on the first day. 60 million. We achieved that on the second day. The third goal is 150 million. However, we reached 94 million on day 3 already. So I have faith that we are going to smash through this 150 million really easily. So good job, everyone. Now, before we begin the podcast, if you're new to the channel, I upload NGS content daily, so if you do play this game, I would really appreciate a subscribe as it really helps out the channel. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin the video. Good morning everyone, welcome to another episode of Arks Trash. Today we have special guest EveryDere. EveryDere, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, what's up, gamers? It's Casual Gamer Corvus from EveryDere here.
First of all, let's get some history or some background information about your name. So, you name yourself Corvus, but you also have EveryDere. So, which name do you want people to call you?
That's a hard choice. Honestly, either one works. Corvus is my Final Fantasy name, and EveryDere is pretty much this name that I just made for the channel randomly.
So for the sake of the video and to avoid confusion, I'm just going to be calling you EveryDere. When did you start making content for PSO2?
Oh man, back in 2015, there was a gunner guide video that I made a very long time ago. And then that was kind of where it started and stopped immediately. The original plan was to make a video for every single class back in OG PSO2 to help people because we just had no information. But recently though, with the start of NGS, I decided, well, let's just do it again. So 4 months ago, technically was the start of my channel again.
Okay, fair enough. I see you've been doing really well on your latest videos. You've been uploading a lot of guide videos and reading and breaking down frame data. Do you play fighting games by any chance?
Yes, I play a lot of Guilty Gear Strive recently. In fact, keroppi, do you remember when the servers first came out for the game?
For Guilty Gear? Or for PSO2?
Oh no, for NGS.
Yeah,
Yeah, the servers completely died, but at the same time what came out was Guilty Gear. I spent so much time just playing Guilty Gear as I waited for the servers to stabilize.
How comfortable are you with reading like frame data and all that stuff? Is this just like second nature to you?
Yeah, it's pretty second nature to read frame data and potency because I do have a rating background in Final Fantasy. So when I look at all the frame data, and thank you everyone who's compiled all that frame data and stuff, because that is actually amazing. Because I'm honestly, that's too big brain for me to like work with. But dude, reading all the frame data and seeing all the DPS, it really makes a lot of sense for me. And then I just kind of break it down, starting with like the basics, you know, like what is something that's super easy to understand. So that if you're looking at a class, right, you can pick it up and you can do pretty well, honestly, like not completely top 1%, but just following the basics of the things that I say, you can hit pretty much like above average pretty easily.
So for the less experienced audience members out there who don't play fighting games and don't know what frame data is, how would you explain it in a very simple term?
Well, breaking it down, frame data would basically just be how long does it take to do something? So your goal is to cram as much damage as you can in the smallest amount of time would be the best way to describe frame data.
And then, so how does this translate into PSO2 or into New Genesis?
Well, a great example actually is Gunner. So you've probably seen a lot of Gunners, and this is very common in your UQs. They're all spamming Bullet Rave. But what you might notice is that Bullet Rave has 4 parts technically. It's like a 1 stream, 2 stream, 3 streams, and then a 4th hit. Now, what a lot of people have told me is that the fourth hit does the most amount of damage, but if you look at the frame data, right, what happens is that if you only do the first 3 streams, right, and you cancel it, it's actually more damage than letting the final shot take off, because the final shot just takes too long. And that's probably the best example in NGS currently for frame data.
So when you break down all this data and you tell people, oh, this is how you do the most amount of damage, XYZ, do you think that is pretty much like set in stone because you broke it down to like a science?
No, actually, and that's the best part. If you've ever seen my videos, like the comment section, actually, I always reply and talk to every single person in the comment section because there's some interesting stuff people come up with. So for example, on one of my latest videos for Hunter, right, I was talking about sword and how this is what I came up with. But then I also told people, if you found a rotation that's even better, post it in the comments so we can see. So there's a sick comment chain right now in my Hunter guide video, which is a lot of people posting the rotations, posting their potencies on how much they got per frame data, and then also doing DPS calculations. And we found some crazy stuff you could do with sword inside of that comment chain.
Do share. This is a topic that I can understand. I don't play Gunner, but I do play Hunter Sword. So what is the best chain combo at the moment?
Okay, so assuming that it's a downed phase, right? This is something that a viewer found out. So initially in my video, I was like, okay, well, maybe charge Caliber Streak into uncharge into different arts or something. And I gave out a number. So then what happened was, about 2 days later, a viewer posted, hey, I think I found a better rotation. And it's to fully charge your Caliber Streak, followed by doing another full charge Caliber Streak, but only for the first hit. Uncharge the second and third hit, then do same arts normal. And the damage on that, in such a short amount of time, I think it's only like 800 something frames, is ridiculous.
So to give you a little bit of background information about me is I do play fighting games, but I play casually. So I don't know how to read frame data. I don't know how to like all the mathematical stuff that you do in your videos. I don't understand half of them. I literally just listen to the conclusion where you're like, oh, you tap Caliber Streak twice and then auto attack, and that's on like a regular down phase because they get up really quickly. And I was like, okay, sure, I can do that. So what I do now is I do one full Caliber Streak and then I tap, and then I use the same arts auto attack thingy. And I'm just like, perfect, you know, that works. It seems like it's doing a lot of damage. I don't actually look at the numbers, but I feel like I'm doing a lot of damage. And that's it, right? I just call it a day. And so what you just told me was very interesting because I'm just like, oh, I could have just been holding it down the whole time. Because that's what I did before was, it doesn't matter if it was a short down or a long down. It was just, I just held down Caliber Streak because that was how I saw that move. This move was when the boss can't move, you hold that button down, you deal a ton of big PP damage, and boss dies. That was pretty much how I understood it.
I mean, that's really how they built it too. Like, it seems like it's a skill where Sega was just like, here's all your damage, guys, and you just use it.
Yeah, well, I mean, Hunter is more complicated than that, right? Because like if you do a for example a Avenger Arts parry or whatever they want to call it, like that deals a lot of damage as well, especially if you fully charged it. And the same with the full counter. When you perfect time a weapon action into a auto attack, that thing also does a lot of damage because I hit for like 1.7k with like the glisten weapon. I'm just like, what the hell? That's a lot of damage.
It is. There's like so much into Hunter that it's pretty crazy. Like, I would say where Fighter is all about like, you know, reactive parrying and being active with your parries and counters and everything, Hunter is a different step where it's more about like, you really have to predict what is happening next. It's like Monster Hunter, basically. Like, especially when we get into Hunter Arts Avenger parry, and that I was planning on making a whole completely separate video because that thing is just way too complicated for like optimizing it. Yeah,
for sure. I feel like a lot of people, myself included, we don't think the game is very complicated because we don't go super in depth into the mathematical breakdowns of everything. But when I see the work that a lot of the community is doing, like breaking down the frame data, giving you all this information, and just sharing this information in public, and then people actually taking this data and breaking it down into a, something that a casual player like myself would understand, like then we realize that, oh wow, this game is a lot more complicated than we thought it would be, or that we thought it was. And I feel like that's pretty impressive on how a video game can make it so accessible and so simple, so that the everyday person is just like, oh look, I do big PP numbers, I feel good, I like doing big numbers. But it's also complex enough where people have like a lot of data to work with, and you can really min-max your character.
Yeah, I agree. That's one of the things I love about NGS, is that compared to OG PSO2, the game has gotten so simple, yet despite being how simple it is, there's still a nice depth to the gameplay that you can achieve, and it's honestly really fun. Like, that's probably my favorite part of NGS.
So NGS has been out for 4 weeks now. What do you like about NGS and what don't you like about NGS so far?
Oh boy. What I like about NGS, the gameplay, customization, fashion, basically everything I loved about OG PSO2 carried on into NGS. Now, what I don't like, that would be... Oh man, that's kind of hard. Because I don't really see that there's anything too bad, but top one, the shop pass for free-to-play. The fact it got taken out of the fun scratch because we don't have a fun scratch in NGS, in my opinion, it kind of hurts the economy a little, but we're also still a little bit too early. And besides that one, probably upgrading. Upgrading costs us so much in the game. Like, I think I've bankrupted myself by just upgrading.
Yikes. All right. So, interesting enough, you didn't point out the obvious elephant in the room, which is obviously lack of content. Do you not think that the game is lacking content?
Oh, that's a good point, actually. The way that I view NGS, so a lot of people view it as like, the game's fully out, and they did say it's a full release. For me, the way I've been seeing the game, which is probably why I don't see there's a lack of content, is that I've seen it as more of an open beta, basically. Like, I don't really treat the game as like being out until we get Braver and Founders Pack, because the way that Sega kind of released the game, right? We have, they gave us a roadmap, basically, and they said, it's going to drop in June, and then our first update is like 2 months out. So the way that I saw that announcement was, hey guys, we're going to beta test the game for you in June, and you're going to stress test it, you're going to find all the bugs for it, and you're going to do all of this stuff, but then once it hits, August, and we drop the most popular class in OG PSO2 pre-Scion, Braver, right? At that point, the game's fixed and we're going to add some content. And then if we look at the roadmap, it kind of lines up. We get the Founders Pack in August, we get Braver, Defense Quests, Bouncer drops a level cap increase with class skills, and then they start teasing Summoner, and I'm like, honestly speaking, for me, I just see this as an open beta.
I personally think there is enough content in the game for me, personally. Because I played a lot of Black Desert back in the day, and Black Desert has always been about that grind. And if we go like way back, if we go like a decade, okay, maybe almost 2 decades back, I played a lot of Ragnarok Online, the original RO. And the original RO, that was a grind fest. I remember getting from level 98 to 99 was like 2 months worth of grinding. Just to get that one level was 2 months. And so, to me, coming into NGS, because the combat feels good, I'm like, this is fine. I don't care. Because the combat feels good, I'm treating it like a Diablo game where I go in and I am grinding for gear. I'm grinding for that legendary Fixa 5 guard armor. I'm farming for that legendary Fixa 5 attack weapon. And so, because I haven't achieved any of those goals yet, it's like, whatever, it's fine. And another thing, of course, is the shop pass, right? Since we don't have the shop pass, making money is extremely difficult as a free-to-play. And so, to me, I just go like, well, I have faith, and I do honestly think that shop passes are going to come in in the fall with the mission pass, with all of that. I feel like that is when the shop pass is going to be re-implemented, either through a fun scratch, maybe on base PSO2, or maybe we have a fun scratch in NGS, which would be awesome. Something along those lines, right? So that's basically my train of thought. So I'm like, it's fine. We can't make money now, but we can make money in the future. So how we're going to do that is we're just going to prepare for the future. So we're just going to be farming a ton right now. And so right now I'm sitting on like 2.4 million Meseta. And out of this money, I want to say like 1 million was actually just me farming for like 16 hours of just killing mobs. And like, you know, it's really little, the amount that you make from like converting items to cash, right? When you convert items to cash, it's like 50 to 60 Meseta per item. But if you do it long enough, you make a lot of Meseta. It adds up. And
it really does.
So I was just like, you know what? Slow but steady, let's go. So I was making 60,000 an hour, so basically 1,000 Meseta every single minute. And I was like, okay, so if I continue up this pace, it would take me 16 hours, almost 17 hours to make 1 million. So I just I portioned it up into like a week. So I was like, every day I'll grind like, you know, 2 or 3 hours, something along those lines. And that's how I went along with it. And then we had the alpha reactors as well. And so that was pretty much my progression of my character. But another thing that, I guess another reason why I don't feel like I'm burnt out of the game is because I play other games. I play a lot of Genshin Impact. And Genshin Impact also is in a content drought. Well, I mean, soon we're getting a 2.0 and Inazuma and all that stuff. But at the moment, it's still in a content drought because it was just a bunch of filler content. But I was never bored of that game because I literally log on, I play half an hour at most, and I log off. And so it was just like, well, you know, dude, if I only play half an hour every day, obviously there's going to be a ton of content for me to do all the time because I just don't play a lot. And with NGS, it was pretty much the same approach. It was, I log in at daily reset, I do my dailies, I do my weeklies, and then I do my material farming route. I do all my ores, I do veteran mobs, I collect fruits, vegetables, and seafood. And then by the time I'm done with all of that, you know, that's like an hour, 2 hours gone. I'm just like, oh, cool. 2 hours is gone. Oh, wait, I need to go to bed now because I got work tomorrow. and you know, that concludes my day, right? And if I do have extra time, then it's just like, okay, let's go grind a little bit. Let's go get all the alpha reactors. And that's pretty much it. And that's why I feel like I don't get burnt out of the game that quickly, because I can do everything I want to do every single day. It's not like I'm gated and I have nothing to do in the game, because I don't play long enough every single day to hit that wall.
For me, it's actually the same exact thing. I log in and I do the exact same thing you do, where, you know, I have like a daily set list and I'm just preparing for the future. So, you know, do your mineral route. In my opinion, that's probably the most important part, is doing your mineral route right now, because that stuff is going to be used for upgrading later on. So even if you don't want to play like a class currently, let's be honest, you know, when Braver drops and you're kind of starved for photon chunks, you'll want those photon chunks. And that's pretty much all I do, is like log in, do your dailies, do your weeklies. If I feel like doing more stuff, then I'll do like more stuff just to keep it fresh and fun. But I also did the same thing for OG PSO2 as well. Like, I started OG PSO2. Oh god, that was like episode 2 in Japan.
Wait, so you played the JP server back in the day?
Yep.
Oh,
yep.
snap.
I was way back in the day. Like back when you had a level hunter to unlock fighter day. Like that way back, and it was rough. My old PC still has screenshots of that. But yeah, I played way back then, and I still played semi-actively, but I never really had a huge time when I quit, except for one specific time in PSO2's history, which JP players will remember this, so I forgot when it was. But back in the day, Yahoo JP, which hosts all the PSO2 servers, right, it got DDoS. And what happened was, because they got DDoS, right, and they restarted their whole server infrastructure and everything, all of a sudden, we basically got IP blocked from Japan.
Yikes.
And that was actually the only time that I stopped playing PSO2.
Yeah, that's actually really surprising. I never thought that you were an OG, like, JP server player. Like, a lot of people think that I am an OG, but the thing is, I didn't come into PSO2. I never heard of Phantasy Star at all until PSO2 came to the West when we got the Microsoft release. So that was like, I don't know, last year, no, a year before that. So 2 years ago, that was the first time I had ever heard of this series. I had always been a Final Fantasy person. The first big story-driven game that I ever played was Final Fantasy X back in the day on the PlayStation 2, I think? It's PlayStation 2, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And like that was amazing. I loved it. But I never played 8, I never played 7. Like these were the big hitter ones. Like 7 is a really big hitter, but I've never played it before. And so after I finished 10, and then like a decade later, people are like, "Oh my god, my favorite Final Fantasy is 7." I was like, "What the hell 7 about?" Then I was like, "All right, fine, I'll try it." And then I played it. But the thing is, I could never get past like the beginning part, like out of Midgard from 7. I got too bored. I don't know, something about maybe the graphics or something about like the old game. I just couldn't get myself into it. And then so when the remake came out, I was like, hey, cool, you know, I might want to try this out now. But something about the remake that really turned me off, at least from just watching Let's Plays and stuff, was there was no grinding involved. I was just like, wait, I can't just sit there and keep killing mobs and get super overpowered and blast through the story. I was like, what is this? I don't like this. Because like every Final Fantasy I played has always been, you know, if you want, you can stay in the starter area till you hit like level 10. And then once you're level 10, all the mobs and the bosses are still level 6 and 7, and you just, you know, bulldoze over them. And so I'm still very used to that very old formula of RPGs. And so when the remake of Final Fantasy VII came out, I was just like, yes, the graphics are awesome. Yes, the characters are awesome. But the gameplay was just kind of like, huh? This is kind of weird.
Yeah. They really took out the grind from it. Like, I played it on my brother's PS4, and I was kind of shocked at how different it was compared to, like... Because I grew up with Final Fantasy, and I played every single one, and, like, it shouldn't come as a shock to me how Remake turned out, but it still came as a shock that you could basically kind of just go forward the whole time, and there wasn't, like, a point where, you know, you felt like you had to grind and to overcome anything, or, like, yeah, really anything. It felt like just a straightforward journey, instead of having, like, the classic RPG experience. Like, Final Fantasy VIII, you didn't play it, right?
No, I never played 8. 8 is the one with Squall, right? The Gunblade one?
Yeah, that's my favorite one. Now, let me tell you about 8, okay? This is probably one of the more complicated Final Fantasies. They had a system called Junctioning.
Okay.
And the way Junctioning worked was that you didn't have magic in that game, but you drew magic from mobs.
Okay.
Which sounds weird. So basically, the way the Junction system worked was that you had to put your magic casts, which were limited, into a slot to raise your stuff. So that resulted in a lot of weird things in Final Fantasy VIII. Like, you could literally sit in the starting area and repeatedly junction until you hit 99 of a spell, and then slap it onto people. And just steamroll.
Wow.
Like, it was wild. And you still had normal leveling too. Like, you still got stronger as you leveled. You still got your limit breaks and everything. It's just that Junctioning added like an extra layer that a lot of people didn't understand back at its release. But now that we have all the information out, there's like tons of videos of like really messed up optimal junctioning patterns you can do that are absolutely disgusting when you look at them. Actually,
have you played Zelda Ocarina of Time or Ocarina of Time or whatever it's called?
And Majora's Mask.
Okay, so I've never played Majora's Mask, but I've played Ocarina of Time because back then I had a Nintendo 64. I'm trying to recall, was that game very linear in the sense like what we just talked about in Final Fantasy VII Remake? Because I don't remember any grinding in Zelda.
Yeah,
right?
Like, Zelda was more about... It was more about the adventure. Like, when I think about it, and this is pure nostalgia goggles, was like, that game it was like open world when you were a kid and you were playing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pretty sure nowadays, right, if you went back and you played Ocarina of Time, and there's a lot of avenues to play it. It even got ported to the 3DS, which I actually have. I'm pretty sure it's more linear now. Maybe it might just be nostalgia, but I remember back as a kid, like, you play that and it was so cool, but at the same time you somehow stumbled into the ending.
Mm-hmm.
But nowadays I feel like now that we have, way more critical thought than being like a 6-year-old, for example, I'm pretty sure it's actually more linear, honestly.
Yeah, I feel like the game is linear in the sense that the story progression is very, oh, we're going from town A to town B, then B to C, C to D, and then finally you get to the final boss, right? Like, in that sense, it's very linear. But I think the way that they were able to disguise that linear path and make it seem like an open world was the exploration and the puzzles. It was like, oh, we're going from A to B, and in order to get from town A to B, you have to cross this giant field, Herculean field or something. I forgot what it is. But
like Hyrulean field or something.
Hyrulean field or plains or something. And then like that area was so vast. Or maybe it wasn't extremely big in like our standards nowadays, but back then that was really big. And there was just like, there were hidden hearts. There was just a lot of like power-ups and materials just sitting around there, all hidden. And then when you get there, then you had to do puzzles. And then they had the whole when you're a kid and when you're grown up, so you had some sort of replayability there. And I felt like that was what they did to make it seem like it was really open world, because you would do a lot of backtracking and a lot of like checking out extra areas. You would spend a lot of time just exploring the area so that you don't miss out on any of those materials or goodies, basically, or power-ups.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they did really well. And so I just want to drag this back and connect it with PSO2. With PSO2, a lot of my Alliance members and a lot of my friends, the most enjoyable part that they liked about New Genesis was actually hunting down those red boxes. Now, I do know that there are some people, there is a party that just straight up hates the red boxes because they just don't like finding them. But in my personal opinion, I enjoy them. The reason is because I don't read a guide and I don't go out specifically to find these boxes. Currently, I'm only 90 out of 113 red boxes, and I've been playing since day one, every single day for like 2 hours a day, right? But I don't go out of my way to collect these. The only time where I accidentally stumble upon them is when I'm going my regular route. I'm kind of like, wait, there's an enemy there. I go kill the enemy. I'm like, oh, where am I? I'm lost. And then I accidentally stumble upon it. I'm just like, oh, wow, there was a red box here this entire time? I never noticed it.
Same exact thing. Like, I didn't even know for a very long time that there was actually a set amount of red boxes and someone plotted out every single one. So every time I saw a red box, I was like, yo, sick, 10 SG. You just smack it, get some stuff, and then you go on your day, and then you find another red box. And it's actually really funny because when you just see them in the wild and you just hit it, like, it's just fun. Like, as an exploration concept, too. Like, just like Ocarina of Time, when you would go around and hit grass for rupees, it gives me the same joy of just hitting a red box and seeing a pop-up of like being 10 SG.
I feel like that aspect really complements the whole idea of New Genesis being a full open world game, where you're running around, you're exploring the world, and having the incentive of, hey, you might accidentally run into a red box, or you might accidentally run into XYZ. Like that concept is really good, and I feel like Sega has been trying to work with this idea, especially with the whole Gigantics thing. The whole, at least my philosophy of what I think Sega's trying to achieve is, hey, you can just mind your own business, do whatever you want, and then all of a sudden it's a random event's gonna happen, like it starts storming, a Gigantic spawns, and everyone groups together and they have something to work towards, like, oh, we gotta overcome this challenge together. And I really like that type of mentality that the developers have of, it doesn't matter how weak you are, how strong you are, it's about the working together part, working as a community to overcome challenges. I like that direction. Now, obviously, we've had our, hiccups and a lot of drama because there have been situations when Gigantics first came out, the scaling was really off, the timing was pretty unreasonable, and we had like a rocky 3 weeks, I'd like to say 2 to 3 weeks, and then finally this week, everything's been more or less smoothed out. Now when a Gigantic spawns, everyone's just like, it doesn't matter if you're level 1 or whatever, we just go off and we go kill that. And then what I think even better is when they do implement fun points or whatever currency they're going to call it, that gives even more incentive for people to revive each other, because people are like, oh, I want those fun points because I want to use it to get my shop pass. So everyone is going to be a lot more incentivized to work together as a team to revive everyone, so forth and so on, and that was what I really liked about base PSO2. It was like, we call it J-Rez. I don't know if you've encountered the phrase before, but yes, when we played on the JP server, so when New Genesis was still in closed beta, a couple content creators and myself were invited to try out the closed beta. And so we were playing the game, and we realized, because the test server was in JP, so we were playing with JP players, but we noticed that every time anyone went down, within 2 seconds, someone would res them, regardless of what level they were. If they were strong, it didn't matter. And we just dubbed this J-Rez, because have you noticed that on the West, sometimes if it's just one person that dies, people usually hold off on their reses and they wait until like 2 or 3 other people have died, then they use the res. So have you noticed that? Like, we have this mentality hardwired in our brain for some reason. It's like, oh, I've only got 5 reses, I'm not going to use it on just one person. I'm going to wait until there's like more people that die, so that I get more bang out of my buck for my res. It's really weird that we're hardwired this way. While on the JP side, they're like, it doesn't matter, someone's dead, revive them instantly, because if you res them, maybe we'll do more damage overall. Spending that 1 second to throw that res is not a big deal. And it's just kind of interesting to see the two different mentalities, which is why we dubbed it J-Rez, because it's Japanese revive. So that's how it's just instant reses. And I just found that really interesting.
Wow, I didn't even know that was a thing. So for me, right, anytime someone goes down, I instantly mash that res.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I didn't know, like, I was wondering why, even in OG PSO2, like, I've been playing PSO2 for a while, and I also play 14, as you know. The idea is that if someone goes down, right, get him back up, because some DPS is better than no DPS. And I did notice that towards the end, especially towards the end of OG PSO2's life cycle, a lot of people held the reses, and I was just like, what are these people doing? Like, we have, like, the atomizer ring that gives you iframes, like, just smash this. And I just tossed it off as, like, I guess they just didn't want to slot the ring.
I guess.
So I didn't know that people were just basically hoarding their moon atomizers instead of just rezzing people.
In base PSO2, it was not that much of an issue, at least for me and my alliance, because I made it into a game. Because everyone knew that I'm fully free to play, and so I need the fun points in order to buy the shop passes and do everything. And so I just made it into a game where we're all in voice chat, and if someone dies, I'm like, I got you, I'm gonna res you down. And then, like, everyone would be fighting me to try to revive that person, because they knew that I needed the fun points. But obviously, if you think about it logically, I have like 20,000 X cubes. I can just use the X cubes to switch it into fun point tickets. Logically, I could do that.
More fun.
But it's more fun to get everyone rallied in this random mini game while we're fighting like true profound darkness or something, right? And it's just like, oh my god, we gotta res that guy. And so that's how I got my alliance to adopt the whole J-Rez mentality. Was I made like a whole mini game out of it, because normally if I didn't do that, people would be like, oh, I'm gonna wait for more people to die before I res them, because I just want to get more value out of the res. And I feel like this is prevalent in New Genesis. especially when someone dies during Gigantics. A lot of people aren't going to res them immediately if it's only one person. Like, pay attention next time when you do the North Aleo Gigantics, the big guy. I think, is that sword or axe? I forgot.
I forgot because all I see is his foot.
Yeah, either way. Yeah. Anyway, that big guy over there. Notice if he only kills one person, that person usually doesn't get revived instantly. But if like 4 or 5 people die from like the AoE slam, you're gonna see that instant res. Guaranteed, you're gonna see that instant res. It's just so weird. Like, I don't know where the mentality comes from, but I've just kind of grown to accept it. And so usually I'm one of the first people to run out of reses. Like, I personally would hold off on my res purposely if I have one res left, because I always have in the back of my mind, like, what if everyone dies and I'm the only one alive and I don't have reses? What do I do? So when I finish using the first 4 reses, which I usually just throw out instantaneously when someone dies, on the last one, I'd be like, no, I'm holding this off. Someone else res. And I feel like a lot of people have the same mentality of like, I'm not gonna die, so I'm holding off my reses so that I can res everyone else. It could be because of that thought process, but man, it's crazy. It's really crazy how the West is so much different than JP in this sense.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. And it's funny too, because that exact same thought process you have, for me, it's actually the opposite. I don't even hold the last res. Like, I'll throw all 5 out, and then if I need to res someone, I'm like, oh crap, let me go pick one up real fast.
Wow, I guess.
If everyone dies, my idea is just like, well, everyone's dead, I guess I'll just murder the boss then.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I guess that's probably a healthier mentality. Do you usually hold aggro as well?
Yeah, I do almost all the time, unless there's like a fighter really just popping off.
So you're holding aggro just normal, like just using your regular rotation without Warcry?
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yep, no Warcry.
What class do you play?
I'm supposed to be a gunner main, but if you don't know about gunner, there's a couple chain trigger bugs. So TMGs are still an amazing weapon, but unfortunately because of those chain trigger bugs, I just went straight to hunter. So I main hunter, sword, and partisan.
Okay. And you don't use Warcry, and you hold aggro?
Nope. Yep.
Wait, what? How? Don't fighters just straight up out DPS you?
Abuse your hunter arts to parry.
I mean, I guess. I don't know. Like, I hold aggro, but the only reason I'm holding aggro is because I'm Warcrying. I always use the Warcry so that I hold aggro, because I know that if I'm holding aggro, everyone else can just stand behind the boss. It's funny. After watching, like, I've been doing a little bit of research about Final Fantasy 14, because, you know, you're trying to get me into it. A lot of people are trying to get me into it. And I'm like, all right, you know, I'll do a little bit of research before I try out the game. And so the more I watch Final Fantasy 14, the more I'm thinking about, like, dude, this is exactly how I play in PSO2. It's like, I'm the tank, I stand in the front, and then the nice thing about FF14 is you see that little cone thing, right? You see the cone, and that's like, oh, the safety area is right behind the boss. Everyone stand right there, and you won't get hit by anything. I'm just like, bruh, this is exactly what I do in NGS right now as a hunter. I'm like, guys, don't worry, you guys DPS, I'll take all the pain, and I'll just stand right here. I'm just like, dude, this is exactly how I normally play. It was funny. It was just really, really interesting. Oh man.
Oh my god. That is actually really funny, because the way that I play hunter, right, is I have like Warcry, right? So I might tap it if I feel like it's actually necessary, but other than that, you know how Massive Hunter gives you a huge damage reduction?
Yep.
I treat that as a DPS phase for me. Like, that's like free Hunter Arts Avenger parries for me.
Yeah.
With like no worry, just rush right in and just proc every single time.
I think, was it your video that talked about that? When you were explaining the Massive Hunter, you were like, oh, most people use this defensively, but I use it offensively. Was that your video that said that?
Yeah, that was my video.
Right?
I was trying to introduce people to, like, it looks like a defensive cooldown, and it is a defensive cooldown, but the way that Hunter is structured is, it's actually an offensive cooldown, honestly. Like, they want you to run in and just go completely reckless, get all your Hunter Arts Avenger parries, and I checked out the damage on Hunter Arts Avenger parry damage, and it's shockingly high. If you can get it consistently triggered, and with the leeway that Massive Hunter gives you, it's ridiculous how much damage you can output on Hunter.
What weapon do you use on your Hunter, by the way?
Oh, for me?
Yeah.
So, because I am kind of waiting for Braver to see if I'm gonna like Bow Braver, I just went with a Catalea sword with a preset.
Okay, what preset?
I believe mine is Fixa Attack 3. It's like something really cheap.
Wait, what chip do you play on?
2.
Fixa Attack 3 on chip 2, Catalea?
Yeah.
How much was that?
Yeah, random drop.
Okay, buddy. Oh, yeah,
Wait,
it's so cheap. I got a Fixa Guard 5 on my Vialto armor for free.
Wait. How much is Fixa Attack on ship 2?
It's expensive. It's like, I don't know, 500, 600,000.
Yo, okay, Sega, I guess you're gonna get $7 out of me for a shop pass.
Oh my god.
Remake
Yeah.
my sword right now.
Right? It's crazy. It's expensive because
Oh,
I think Dudley did the math. Dudley did the math where he broke it down. Oh my god, Dudley infuriates me sometimes. He has this awesome website that he's making. So, you know, it's him and this other developer. They're working together, but Dudley has done all the math. He's broken down. He's making this giant Excel spreadsheet where you can literally just tap whatever weapon, whatever series, what fixa, and it'll give you the value of like your potency, right? And I'm just like, bro, that's amazing. Where is it? You know, share that. And he's like, oh yeah, he'll share it once the website comes up. I'm just like, okay. He's been doing this since like 2 weeks ago. And I'm just like,
oh my god,
give me that thing now. Because he's like, he basically, it explains everything in very simple number terms. Where it's just like, all right, so if you have a Catalea sword with a Fixa 3 attack, and it's plus 40, you know, this is the potency that you're gonna get. And it's higher than a Straga sword. And so people are just like, yo, why are we bothering getting Straga swords? You know, Straga's it's really difficult to get because you kill Gigantics, the drop rate's lower, and you need a Fixa in order for it to be stronger than the Catalea sword. And the Catalea sword, like a Fixa, is pretty easy to get because you just farm them out Magnus, go there for like 12 hours, and you're bound to get something, right? And so it was nuts. But after he did that and he showcased it, the prices went from like 60k to like 500k. I was just like, fuck my life.
Yeah, it's funny because in all my videos, like even the very initial Hunter guide that I uploaded, like shortly after NGS came out, people were asking me like, so Straga versus Catalea, which one do you choose? And I told them every single one of those people, and I didn't even know about Dudley doing the calculations for that stuff. I was like, yo, you know, Catalea is only 1% behind Straga if you maintain max HP, so just get a Catalea with a preset, they're cheap. Didn't know that they're now expensive, so I'm actually gonna hop on NGS later, buy a shop pass, give Sega $7, and sell my sword.
Yeah, it's Fixa Attack, especially Fixa Attack 3 and above. Those are extremely expensive. The other presets are really cheap. It's only Attack that goes up for a lot because, it just seems to be the play. Moving on to our next subject, which is going to be about the Braver. So you said you're excited and you're probably going to move on to the Bow Braver. So are you a Braver main back in base PSO2?
Funny story. So back in OG PSO2, I was a Hunter main until Braver came out in episode 3. I switched to Braver for like a solid week and then went back to Gunner. But yeah, honestly, for NGS though, with the way that Braver is working, especially on the bow side, I know a lot of people, including me, they're very excited for Katana. But for me, what I saw with the bow was like, you know, I might actually like this more than Gunner. So I'm very excited for bow, but I will be playing a lot of Katana. I'm actually geared for Katana Braver right now, and I know that a lot of my viewers, they've been requesting when Braver comes out to break down Katana first, so it works out. And then once I'm done with that, I'm gonna just full on, all in, go with bow and see how that leads me.
Nice. So in like I want to say episode 5 or 6-ish in base PSO2 was when when Divide Quest came out. That was when I adopted the Braver Etoile. So Braver main class, Etoile subclass. And the reason I went for that was because A, I suck at the game and I kept dying in Divide Quest. And then B was because I needed a range weapon. So I needed to use the bow because in Divide Quest there were a lot of flying units which I couldn't reach with the katana. Like it was either, you double jump and then you use a bunch of movement abilities and you're out of PP by the time you reach them, or you use katana combat and you dash up, or you use a bow. And I was like, of course I'm going to use a bow. So I adopted the whole hybrid playstyle of using the katana and the bow at the same, simultaneously, I guess. And so I never really met anyone that had used both weapons. So I pretty much was in the dark. I had to read a katana guide only, and then I read a bow guide only. And I was just like, okay, let's find the middle ground and just smash those together. And that was how I worked out my class. And so I personally am going to be using both weapons because I know the benefits of both weapons, or like the strengths of each weapon. And if NGS works the same way as base PSO2, the cooldowns were in sync. So, for example, the moment you finished katana combat, there was a cooldown, so you would switch to your bow, you would use your rapid fire into banishing arrow into master shot. And then by the time that went on to cooldown, your katana combat would be off cooldown, so you switch back to that. And so you would just cycle between the katana and the bow, and it felt good to do that. And so I'm pretty much going to be trying to replicate the same thing in NGS. It's where all of my armors, I'm aiming for Fixify Guard on all of my Vialto armors. The reason is because I need to implement the whole Etoile feel, where I'm just super duper tanky and I never die. And then so on the Braver tree, I can just focus on pure damage. And that's kind of how I've been balancing my characters. My weapon is pure glass cannon, my armors are pure defense. And obviously I'm dealing a lot less damage right now on my hunter because the hunter revolves around the whole Avengers, like the Arts Avengers and all that stuff, which I don't have the timing down very well. But with the Braver, since the attack and the movement and everything is a lot faster pace, I feel like it gives more leeway for mistakes, which is probably going to fit my playstyle a lot more.
Yeah, honestly, that's probably one of the reasons why I'm also looking towards Katana Braver is, you saw the reveal, it is pure speed now.
Yeah.
Like, that is very good. Like, when we look at OG PSO2 Braver, right, compared to, like, even Phantom Katana, it felt a little clunky. But now from the NGS showcase for what we saw for Braver, oh my god. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it had a teleport at this point, just to deal with aerial mobs on Katana.
With the Phantom Katana, we had the quick cut. So when you use the weapon action, you would teleport. If they implemented that into the Katana Braver, like maybe not upon release, right? Maybe when we get the 35 level increase, that would be amazing. That would be such weeaboo content right there, where you could just teleport all over the place and do some anime finishers. Oh my goodness.
Don't forget too, like, the showcase, they were showing off like 1,000 cuts, you dash, everything looks super flashy for Braver Katana. It's gonna get quick cut, like, it's gonna happen, especially since Twin Daggers has acceleration drive, which is basically the exact same thing as quick cut. So, like, I can definitely see it. Especially since Katana Combat, the finisher is now your Photon Blast. So we just slap that in right now.
Alright, well, we are pretty much approaching the end of tonight's podcast. So I'm going to open the floor to you, EveryDere. So if you want to say anything, shout out, stuff like that, the floor is yours.
Thank you guys for all the support and all the things you do in my comment section. It's so fun reading and seeing everything that you guys are posting. Also, thank you to all my friends and other people who are supporting me. I honestly was just aiming for 100 subs. So the fact that we're at this point and we're even on a podcast with Keroppi is kind of nuts. Also, thank you, Keroppi, for featuring me.
You're welcome. All right, so please let the audience know where they can find you. like YouTube, Twitch, stuff like that?
So you can find me at my YouTube channel, EveryDere. I also stream Tuesdays and Thursdays from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. PDT on twitch.tv/EveryDere. And if you want to join my Discord channel, it's also on my Twitter at EveryDere.
All right, perfect. So they can find you on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Yeah?
Yep.
Perfect. All right. Well, that pretty much wraps up today's podcast. Thank you for joining me, EveryDere.
Thank you.
And that's it. Special thanks to all the members for supporting the channel. It really means a lot to me. Thank you again. And that concludes this week's episode of Arks Trash. If you want a special guest to be featured on the show, please let me know in the comment section below. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, I would appreciate a like and a subscribe, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. Bye!
What can I say except you're welcome for the heals, the boosts, the rest.